The Galactic Council Station floated in the void between stars like a massive crystal flower. Its transparent walls showed the darkness of space, broken only by distant points of light. Inside, beings from 47 different worlds moved through its corridors, each breathing their own atmosphere in protective fields. Ambassador Zixitheta of the Altarian hegemony slithered into the council chamber on his 6 tentacles. His 3 eyes scanned the datapad in front of him with what humans might call amusement. Today they would review another application from a new species wanting to join their great alliance. Humans, he said to his aide, making a sound like bubbles popping, from a planet they call Earth, such a boring name for a world. His aide, a younger Altarian named Vex, wiggled his tentacles in agreement. Their application is interesting, Excellence. They have just developed faster than light travel. Their ships use basic fusion drives from what our sensors can detect. Zixtheta's middle eye rolled. The Altarians had abandoned fusion power 3,000 years ago. It was like watching a child discover fire while you cooked with lasers. How many ships do they have? Our scouts report seeing perhaps 30 vessels capable of interstellar travel, Vex replied. They seem to focus more on exploration than military power. Around them, the council chamber filled with representatives from dozens of species. The tall, crystalline vegans clinked as they walked. The warrior Craxians stomped in with their heavy armor. The delicate Centauri floated in their anti-gravity chairs. All of them had received the same information about these humans. High Chancellor Morvac, an ancient being from the oldest council race, called the session to order. His voice echoed in every mind through telepathic translators. We gather today to consider the application of humanity for membership in the Galactic Council. A hologram appeared in the chamber's center, showing a blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star, Earth. It looked peaceful enough, Zixitheta thought, perhaps too peaceful. The humans meet our basic requirements, Chancellor Morvac continued. They have achieved faster-than-light travel. They have unified their world under a single government. They have made contact with us peacefully. The Craxian representative, General Thorax, stood up. His forearms crossed over his chest. What about their military strength? Can they defend themselves, or will we need to waste resources protecting them? The hologram changed to show a human vessel. It was sleek and silver, about 300 meters long. To Zixtheta's experienced eyes, it looked almost primitive. The engine section seemed too large for such a small ship. The hull had unusual thick plating that their sensors couldn't fully penetrate. Their ships appear to use fusion drives and basic particle shields, a vegan scientist reported, her crystalline form chiming with each word. The technology is at least 200 years behind our current standard. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some species laughed. Others shook their heads or performed their equivalent gestures of pity. I motioned to admit them as a probationary member, Zixitheta said, rising on his tentacles. They pose no threat and perhaps they can learn from us. Every species deserves a chance to grow. The vote was quick and unanimous. Humanity would be admitted as a probationary member, protected by council law but without voting rights or access to advanced technology. It was the same status given to all primitive races that showed promise. 3 days later, the first human diplomatic ship arrived at the station. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, watching the massive council station grow larger on her view screen. Her crew of 50 humans worked quietly at their stations, each one specially chosen for this mission. Remember, she told them, we run on minimum power. Let them see what they expect to see. Her chief engineer, Pavel Volkov, nodded from his station. Fusion drives at 20% capacity, Commander. The main core is completely shut down. We look about as threatening as a cargo hauler. Chen smiled slightly. The Prometheus was anything but harmless, but the galaxy didn't need to know that yet. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, studying the signals they intercepted from space, learning about the Council and its members. Opening communication channel, her communications officer announced. A face appeared on the screen, if you could call it a face. Ambassador Zixitheta's 3 eyes blinked at different speeds as his tentacles moved in what Chen recognized as a greeting gesture. Welcome to the Council Station. Commander Chen, Zixitheta said through the translator. I am Ambassador Zixitheta. I will guide you through the docking procedure. Thank you, Ambassador, Chen replied, keeping her face neutral. We are honored to be here. The docking was smooth. Chen felt the slight bump as the Prometheus connected to the station. She stood up, straightening her simple blue uniform. Unlike the elaborate costumes she had seen in intercepted transmissions, human diplomatic dress was plain and functional. "Lieutenant Wong, you have the bridge," she said. "Keep the ship ready but maintain minimum power signature." She met Zixitheta at the airlock with her small diplomatic team. The alien was larger than she expected, nearly 3 meters tall on his tentacles. His skin changed color slightly, which her training told her indicated curiosity. "Your ship is interesting," Zixitheta said as they moved through the station. "The radiation shielding is quite extensive for a fusion vessel." "We believe in being careful," Chen replied simply. They passed groups of other aliens who stopped to stare at the humans. Some pointed with various appendages. Chen heard translated whispers through her earpiece. "So small. They still use fusion. How did they even get here? Probationary members. How cute." Her security chief, Major Thompson, walked beside her with perfect military bearing. She could sense his irritation at the dismissive comments, but he kept his face blank. They had trained for this. The council chamber was more impressive in person than in the intercepted images. Hundreds of species filled the seats, all watching as the human delegation entered. Chen walked to the designated platform for new members, a small area off to the side where they could observe but not participate. "The humans have arrived," Chancellor Morvac announced. "Commander Chen, we welcome your species to the Galactic Council as probationary members." Chen bowed slightly. "We thank the Council for this opportunity. Humanity looks forward to learning from all of you." A ripple of what seemed like condescending approval went through the chamber. The Craxian general actually laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Your species shows promise," Morvac continued. "In perhaps 200 or 300 years, with proper guidance, you may advance to full membership. We will work hard to earn that honor," Chen replied. The session continued with discussions of trade routes and territorial disputes. Chen watched everything, her implanted recording devices capturing every detail. Her team sat quietly, playing the role of the primitive newcomers perfectly. During a break, several ambassadors approached them. A Zentari floated over, its delicate features arranging into what might be sympathy. "Do not be discouraged," it said in a tinkling voice. "All species start somewhere. Why, the Vegans were using fusion when they first joined, though that was 800 years ago. Your ships are quite large for fusion vessels," a vegan scientist observed. "Do you use all that space for fuel?" "Among other things," Chen answered vaguely. Zixtheta slithered over, holding what looked like a drink in one tentacle. "I noticed your engine configuration is unusual. The magnetic containment systems seem overbuilt for simple fusion." Chen smiled. "The Altarian was more observant than most. We prefer redundancy in our systems. Space is dangerous." "Indeed," Zixtheta agreed, though his middle eye remained fixed on her with what seemed like suspicion. The day continued with tours of the station. The humans were shown the basic facilities, the areas where probationary members were allowed. They passed sealed doors leading to advanced technology sections, weapon platforms, and strategic command centers. "In time, perhaps your species will have access to these areas," their guide, a 6-armed creature called a Proxian, said cheerfully. "For now, it is best you learn the basics." That night, Chen stood in her assigned quarters looking out at the stars. Her secure communicator buzzed with a message from Earth, encrypted beyond anything the Council could decode. "Status report received." It read, "Continue observation. Maintain cover." She deleted the message and prepared her official report, the one the Council would expect. It talked about how honored humanity was, how much they hoped to learn, how grateful they were for protection. The real report, the one in her head, was different. The Council was powerful but complacent. They had not faced a real threat in centuries. Their technology was advanced but had stopped truly innovating. They saw what they expected to see, and that was exactly what humanity was counting on. The emergency alarm screamed across the Council station. Red lights bathed every corridor as representatives from all 47 member species rushed to the central command chamber. Something had gone terribly wrong in the Ashanti system. Commander Sarah Chen ran alongside Ambassador Zixitheta, her shorter human legs working hard to keep pace with his flowing tentacles. 3 months had passed since humanity joined the Council as probationary members. 3 months of playing the role of the eager, primitive newcomers. What is happening? Chen asked, though she already knew. Human deep space sensors had detected the threat days ago. Devourers, Zix Theta said, his skin flashing colors of fear and anger. They have returned from dark space. A massive hive fleet is approaching the Ashanti colonies. The command chamber was chaos. Holographic displays showed the Ashanti system, 3 inhabited worlds with over 12 billion souls from various council species. Moving toward them from the edge of the system was a cloud of red dots. Hundreds of them. Chancellor Morvac stood at the center, his ancient form trembling with urgency. The Devourers have not attacked in such numbers for over a century. We must respond with everything we have. General Thorax of the Craxians slammed his 4 fists on the tactical table. My battle fleet can be there in 6 hours. 40 dreadnoughts and their support craft. The Vegan Crystal Armada will join you, the Vegan representative chimed. 30 battle cruisers with our most advanced particle beams. The Zentari carriers are already moving, another voice added. Our fighter swarms will provide cover. Chen watched as the most powerful military forces in the galaxy prepared for war. On the display, their ships began moving toward the Ashanti system. Hundreds of vessels, each one capable of devastating firepower by human standards of just decades ago. Commander Chen, Chancellor Morvac's telepathic voice touched her mind. Your species should evacuate any human personnel from the Ashanti system immediately. This is beyond what probationary members should witness. Chen stepped forward. Chancellor, we have 3 ships in that sector. The Prometheus, Pandora, and Icarus. They were on a training mission. Several representatives made sounds of dismay. The poor humans with their primitive fusion ships would be slaughtered. Order them to retreat immediately, Morvac commanded. Chen touched her communicator. This is Commander Chen to all human vessels in the Ashanti system. Code 7, repeat Code 7. On the bridge of the UES Pandora, Captain Elena Volkov heard the code and smiled grimly. Code 7 meant the gloves were coming off. You heard the commander, she told her crew. Prepare for full combat operations. Her chief engineer, Marcus Webb, finally looked excited. About time, Captain. Should I bring the main core online? Not yet. Let's see what the Council fleet can do first. The 3 human ships hung back as the mighty Council Armada engaged the Devourers. The aliens were nightmares made real. Biological ships that looked like massive insects crossed with squid. Their hulls were living armor that could adapt to weapons, healing damage as fast as it was inflicted. The space around Ashanti Prime lit up with the greatest display of firepower the galaxy had seen in generations. Craxian plasma cannons fired streams of superheated matter that could melt asteroids. Vegan particle beams sliced through space with surgical precision. Zentari fighters swarmed like angry hornets, launching thousands of missiles. The Devourers kept coming. Their bioarmor absorbed the plasma blasts, dispersing the heat through organic heat sinks. The particle beams carved wounds that sealed themselves in seconds. Missiles exploded against shields made of hardened mucus that reformed instantly. By the void, General Thorax's voice crackled over the communication channels. Nothing is working. Admiral Kenji Nakamura stood on the bridge of the UES Icarus, watching the battle with calculating eyes. His tactical officer, Commander Patel, looked up from her station. Admiral, the Council forces have destroyed only 3 Devourer ships while losing 15 of their own. Nakamura nodded. Open a channel to the Council command. Back at the station, Chen watched as a human face appeared on the main display. Admiral Nakamura looked calm, almost bored. Chancellor Morvac, this is Admiral Nakamura of the UES Icarus. Request permission to engage the enemy. General Thorax laughed bitterly over the comm. Human, this is no place for fusion-powered toys. Get your ships to safety before you get people killed. Nevertheless, Nakamura continued, ignoring the insult. We request permission to engage. Morvac's telepathic voice carried resignation. If you wish to die for the Council, that is your choice. Permission granted. The 3 human ships began moving forward. On sensors across the Council fleet, energy readings from the human vessels started to climb. And climb. And climb. What in the 7 hells? A vegan scientist gasped. Captain Volkov stood up from her command chair. All hands, this is the captain. Bring the antimatter core to full power. Deep in the Pandora's heavily shielded engine room, the true heart of the ship came alive. Magnetic field stronger than any star contained a swirling maelstrom of antimatter, the most powerful energy source known to physics. Matter and antimatter met in controlled annihilation, releasing energy that made fusion look like a campfire compared to a star. Across the Council fleet, alarms started screaming. Impossible energy readings. A Zentari sensor operator shrieked. Those ships are generating power levels that cannot exist. The human ships accelerated. Not the steady, careful acceleration of normal vessels, but a sudden leap forward that seemed to break the laws of physics. The Prometheus went from standard cruising speed to 90% the speed of light in 12 seconds. Zix Theta's 3 eyes went wide as his tactical display showed the true power readings. By the ancient depths, each human ship is generating more power than our entire battle fleet combined. General Thorax's voice was barely a whisper. What are they? The answer came in the form of humanity's first public antimatter weapon deployment. Captain Volkov's weapons officer, Lieutenant Kim, had been waiting years for this moment. Antimatter torpedo locked on target, Captain. Fire. A single torpedo, no larger than a human automobile, streaked from the Pandora toward the largest devourer bio-dreadnought. Inside its magnetic containment field was 1 gram of antimatter. When it hit, the explosion was visible from 3 solar systems away. The bio-dreadnought, a creature ship the size of a small moon, simply ceased to exist. The matter-antimatter annihilation released energy equivalent to 43,000 tons of conventional explosives, concentrated into a space smaller than a house. The Devourer's adaptive armor, which had shrugged off the Council's best weapons, was converted directly into energy at the quantum level. For 10 seconds, nobody in the Council fleet spoke. Then the human ships opened fire in earnest. Admiral Nakamura's voice was calm and professional over the comms. Council fleet, this is Admiral Nakamura. Recommend you fall back to minimum safe distance. We are engaging with antimatter weapons. Torpedoes streaked from all 3 human ships. Each impact was a new star being born and dying in an instant. Devourer ships that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia were deleted from existence with surgical precision. The Prometheus accelerated through the Devourer formation at 92% the speed of light, its antimatter-powered weapons arrays firing streams of annihilation that carved through bio-armor like it was paper. The ship moved so fast that by the time the Devourers detected it, it was already gone, leaving only destruction in its wake. The Icarus deployed something the Council had never seen, antimatter mines that were essentially invisible until they exploded. Devourer ships ran into them and vanished in flashes of pure conversion. The Pandora did something that should have been impossible. It fired an antimatter beam, a continuous stream of antimatter particles contained in a magnetic field tunnel. The beam swept across a cluster of 20 Devourer ships, and they all disappeared in a line of explosions that looked like a god's sword cutting through space. In 8 minutes, it was over. Where hundreds of Devourer ships had threatened billions of lives, now only expanding clouds of plasma remained. The 3 human ships hung in space, their impossible energy signatures slowly dimming as they powered down their weapons. The communication channels were silent. Every species in the Council fleet was running the same calculations, coming to the same terrifying conclusions. Finally, General Thorax spoke. His warrior's voice carried something it never had before when addressing humans: respect and fear. Admiral Nakamura. What are you? We are humans, General. We just prefer not to use fusion for anything important. Back at the Council station, Ambassador Zix Theta turned all 3 eyes to Commander Chen. His skin had gone pale. A color she had learned meant extreme shock. You had antimatter technology this entire time? Chen met his gaze steadily. Ambassador, surely you understand that a species must be careful when entering an unknown political situation. We needed to know if the Council could be trusted. But antimatter, the energy requirements to produce it, the containment technology. A vegan scientist was running calculations on her personal display. This should not be possible for a species that just achieved faster-than-light travel. Chen smiled slightly. Who said we just achieved it? We said we had just decided to apply for Council membership. The emergency Council session had been called for 3 hours after the battle, but representatives had been arriving early, clustering in small groups, their voices a mix of fear, awe, and disbelief. Every display in the station showed the same repeating footage: 3 small human ships destroying an entire Devourer fleet in 8 minutes. Ambassador Zixatheta found himself in his private office, all three eyes staring at the same document on his screen. It was humanity's original membership application, submitted just 3 months ago. He read it again, looking for clues he had missed. Basic fusion drives, he muttered to himself. Minimal defensive capabilities. 30 ships total. His tentacles writhed in frustration. How had they been so blind? His aide Vex entered with new data. Excellence, I've been analyzing the sensor readings from the battle. The energy output from each human ship exceeded our theoretical maximum by a factor of 1,000. Antimatter. Zixatheta said the word like it was poisonous. They've mastered antimatter. Do you understand what this means? Vex's color shifted to deep purple, indicating profound worry. If they can contain and control antimatter at that scale, they could destroy stars, Zixatheta finished. In another part of the station, General Thorax of the Craxian Empire stood with his war council. The four-armed warriors were watching tactical simulations on repeat. No matter how they ran the scenarios, the results were the same. Sir, his tactical advisor said quietly, our computers estimate that a single human torpedo contains enough antimatter to destroy one of our dreadnoughts completely. They fired 43 torpedoes in that engagement. And they did it casually, Thorax growled. Did you see how they moved? 92% the speed of light. Our best ships can barely manage 60%. Should we consider a preemptive strike? One of his commanders asked. Before they become too powerful? Thorax turned all forearms on the commander, his expression murderous. Did you not watch the battle? They are too powerful. A preemptive strike would be suicide. Meanwhile, Commander Sarah Chen sat in the human diplomatic quarters, receiving reports from the 3 ships still in the Ashanti system. Admiral Nakamura's face filled her screen. The Council forces are keeping their distance, he reported. We're getting scanning attempts every few seconds, but our shielding is holding. Let them scan, Chen replied. They won't learn anything useful. How are the crews? Relieved to finally show our true capabilities. Volkov's crew is particularly pleased. They've been sitting on that antimatter beam technology for 2 years, Chen nodded. The Council will convene soon. Be ready for anything. The Council chamber was packed beyond capacity when Chancellor Morvac finally called for order. Every member species had sent additional representatives. The air was thick with tension, fear, and a dozen different atmospheric mixtures. We are here to discuss the revelation concerning humanity's technological capabilities, Morvac began, his ancient voice carrying across the chamber. Commander Chen stood in the area designated for probationary members, though the irony of that designation was now apparent to everyone. She appeared calm, hands clasped behind her back, as hundreds of alien eyes, sensors, and other organs focused on her. Commander Chen, Morvac continued, you have deceived this council. Have we, Chancellor? Chen responded calmly. Please point to the lie in our application. Zixatheta rose on his tentacles. You said you had basic fusion drives. We do have fusion drives. We use them for backup power and short-range shuttles. We never said that was all we had. You said you had 30 ships, a vegan representative chimed. We said we had 30 ships that you had detected. You never asked if there were others. The chamber erupted in angry voices. General Thorax slammed his fists on his platform. You deliberately misled us! Chen waited for the noise to die down. We presented ourselves exactly as you expected to see us, a young species with basic technology, eager to join the galactic community. You saw what you wanted to see, but why? Chancellor Morvac asked. Why this deception? Chen smiled slightly. Would you have welcomed us so readily if you knew the truth? If we had arrived announcing our antimatter technology, what would your response have been? The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the answer. They would have seen humanity as a threat to be contained or destroyed. We studied your history, Chen continued. Every species that arrived with superior technology was either forced to share it or was attacked preemptively. We chose a different path, a Zentari scientist floated forward. The energy requirements to produce antimatter at that scale should be impossible for a single system to generate. How? Jupiter, Chen said simply. We built collection stations in Jupiter's magnetosphere. The planet's radiation belts naturally produce antimatter particles. We just learned how to collect and contain them. It took us 50 years to develop the magnetic bottle technology. But once we did, you had unlimited power, the scientist finished, its delicate features showing what humans might recognize as amazement. When did you really achieve faster-than-light travel? Morvac asked. 43 years ago, Chen admitted. We've spent that time studying the galaxy, learning about the Council, preparing for this moment. Shock rippled through the chamber. The humans had been watching them for decades, hidden in the darkness between stars. There's more, Chen said, and the chamber fell silent again. Admiral Nakamura, please provide the demonstration. On the main display, Admiral Nakamura appeared on the bridge of the Icarus. Chancellor, fellow representatives, we want to be completely transparent about our capabilities. He nodded to someone off-screen. We're now activating our defensive systems. Suddenly, sensors throughout the Council fleet in the Ashanti system detected new signatures. Ships appeared out of nowhere, dozens of them surrounding the 3 human vessels. Cloaking technology? General Thorax gasped. That's impossible. The power requirements? Not impossible when you have antimatter reactors, Nakamura explained. These escort vessels have been with us the entire time. We kept them hidden to avoid causing panic. The display changed to show Earth itself, or rather the space around Earth. As the Council watched, hundreds of defense platforms became visible, each one bristling with antimatter weapons. We call it the solar defense grid, Chen explained. Every approach to Earth is covered by overlapping fields of fire. Each platform carries enough antimatter to destroy a fleet. How many ships do you really have? Morvac asked, his mental voice carrying resignation. 412 vessels currently, Chen answered, with 60 more under construction. The Vegan representative performed rapid calculations. With that much antimatter, you could destroy entire star systems. We could, Chen agreed. But we won't, that's not who we are. Then who are you? Zixatheta asked, his 3 eyes fixed on Chen with desperate intensity. Chen took a breath. This was the crucial moment. We are a species that learned from our own history. We nearly destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons. We poisoned our planet with pollution. We fought wars over resources and ideology. But we learned. We unified. We looked to the stars not for conquest but for knowledge and friendship. Friendship? General Thorax laughed bitterly. You hold a gun to our heads and speak of friendship? We hold a shield, Chen corrected. The Devourers are still out there. So are other threats you haven't told us about yet. We've intercepted enough communications to know the Council faces dangers you don't discuss with probationary members. She paused, letting that sink in. We offer our protection. Our antimatter technology makes us the strongest military force in known space. We could use that for conquest, but we choose to use it for defense. Your defense if you'll have us. Chancellor Morvac's ancient mind processed this. What do you want in return? Full membership in the Council. Equal trade rights. Access to your scientific knowledge, not your weapons, but your science, medicine, culture. We want to be partners, not conquerors. And if we refuse? Someone called out. Chen's expression remained neutral. Then we'll leave. We'll recall our ships, close our borders, and humanity will go its own way. But ask yourselves, do you want us as friends or as strangers? The implications were clear. As friends, humanity would protect them. As strangers, humanity would be an unknown factor, a power beyond the Council's influence or understanding. There's something else you should know, Chen added. She touched her communicator, and the display changed to show a star map. Red dots appeared throughout Council space. Hundreds of them. Panic erupted in the chamber. What are those? Zixatheta demanded. Monitoring stations, Chen replied calmly. Unmanned, cloaked, powered by small antimatter reactors. We've been watching and learning for decades. We know your trade routes, your colony worlds, your defensive positions. You've been spying on us? The accusation came from multiple representatives. We've been studying you, Chen corrected. The same way you study new species before making contact. We just did it more thoroughly. The display changed again, showing images of various Council worlds. Not military installations, but cities, parks, schools. Images of daily life from across the galaxy. We've seen your children playing, Chen said softly. We've watched your artists create beauty. We've observed your scientists making discoveries. We know you're not just military powers or political entities. 6 months had passed since humanity's elevation to full Council membership, and the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The massive Council station now had a new addition, a human section powered by a small antimatter reactor that made the rest of the station's fusion generators look like candles next to a bonfire. Ambassador Zixatheta made his way through the human quarter, his 3 eyes taking in the differences. The corridors were wider, the lighting was brighter, and there was a constant hum of barely contained power that made his skin tingle. Humans passed him with polite nods, no longer the seemingly primitive newcomers but recognized as the galaxy's most powerful species. He found Commander Chen, now Ambassador Chen, in her office overlooking the trade district. Through the transparent wall, he could see merchant ships from a dozen species docked at the station. What he didn't see but knew were there were the 3 human antimatter cruisers on patrol, invisible to sensors but ready to respond to any threat. Ambassador, Chen greeted him, standing from her desk. "Thank you for coming." "Your message said it was urgent," Zixitheta replied, settling his tentacles into what humans called a chair. Chen activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red points of light began appearing. 1, then 5, then dozens, then hundreds. "Pirate attacks in the last 6 months," she explained. "Notice the pattern?" Zixitheta studied the display. The attacks were scattered across Council space, but they were increasing in frequency and boldness. "They're testing our responses. Looking for weak points?" "Exactly. And they're finding them." Chen changed the display to show trade route efficiency. The numbers were dropping. "Fear of piracy is strangling commerce. Some systems are seeing 30% reductions in trade. The Council fleet is spread too thin," Zixitheta admitted. "We've always had this problem, but now it's worse because everyone's watching us," Chen finished. "They want to see what humanity will do with its power." She touched another control, and the display showed human antimatter vessels at their current positions. Only 20 ships were on active patrol in Council space. "We propose a solution," Chen said. "Operation Safe Harbor. We deploy our full fleet to establish protected trade corridors. Any ship that attacks a merchant vessel will face immediate antimatter response." Zixitheta's skin shifted colors rapidly: surprise, concern, hope. "The Council would need to vote on this. That's why I asked you here. You have influence. Help us make the case." The Council chamber was fuller than usual when the motion came to the floor. Every trade guild, merchant consortium, and shipping company had sent representatives to observe. They all had the same question: would humanity use its power to help or to dominate? Chancellor Morvac called the session to order. "We are here to discuss the human proposal regarding trade route security." Admiral Nakamura stood at the presentation platform. Behind him, a massive tactical display showed every trade route in Council space. "Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished beings," he began. "Piracy costs the Council economy approximately 300 trillion credits annually. That's not just lost cargo, it's increased insurance, delayed shipments, and systems that become economically isolated." He touched a control, and human ships appeared on the display. Not just the 20 on patrol, but all 400-plus vessels. "We propose deploying our entire antimatter fleet to create secured shipping lanes. Any vessel using these lanes would be under human protection." "At what cost?" The question came from the Proxian Trade Minister. "No cost," Nakamura replied, causing gasps throughout the chamber. "We don't want payment. We want trade to flow freely." General Thorax stood up. "Nothing is free." "What do you really want?" Ambassador Chen took the platform. "We want the galaxy to prosper. A strong economy benefits everyone, including humanity. We're not just military power. We're traders, scientists, artists. We want to be part of a thriving galactic community, not rulers of a fearful one." A vegan economist floated forward. "Our calculations suggest that eliminating piracy would increase overall trade by 47% within 1 year. That's unprecedented economic growth." "There's more," Chen added. She signaled to someone off-screen, and Captain Elena Volkov appeared on the display, standing in what looked like a medical facility. "This is the newly completed Human Council Medical Research Station," Volkov announced. "Powered by antimatter, we can run experiments and treatments that were previously impossible. We've already made breakthroughs in regenerative medicine that could benefit every species here." The display showed medical data: diseases being cured, injuries being healed at accelerated rates, aging being slowed or reversed. "Antimatter power isn't just for weapons," Chen explained. "It's for life. We're offering to build these stations in every major system, free of charge." The chamber erupted in discussion. The humans were offering not just protection but advancement. It was everything the Council could hope for, which made many suspicious. A Zentari philosopher raised a delicate appendage. What happens when we become dependent on your protection? On your technology? What if you decide to withdraw it? Chen nodded. It was a fair question. That's why we're also offering something else. She paused for effect. Antimatter power cells. Not the technology to make antimatter, but sealed cells that can power ships, stations, or cities for decades. We'll provide them at cost. You'd share your power source? Zixtheta couldn't hide his amazement. Controlled sharing, Chen clarified. The cells are sealed and will self-destruct if tampered with. But yes, we want to elevate everyone, not hold you back. General Thorax had been unusually quiet. Now he stood, his warriors bearing commanding attention. I've fought in 300 battles. I've seen empires rise and fall. Never have I seen a superior force offer to uplift those below them. He turned to address the chamber. The humans could conquer us. We all know this. Instead, they offer partnership. My people value strength, but we value honor more. I support the human proposal. One by one, other representatives stood to speak. The Vegans talked about the harmony that could come from reduced conflict. The Zentari discussed the scientific advances possible with antimatter power. Even the suspicious Altarians admitted the economic benefits were undeniable. But it was the arrival of an unexpected guest that changed everything. The chamber doors opened, and a figure entered that made everyone freeze. It was a devourer, not a ship, but one of the rare individual creatures wrapped in an environmental suit. They almost never appeared in council space peacefully. The being's translator crackled to life. The hive mind wishes to speak. Weapons appeared in dozens of appendages before Chancellor Morvac called for calm. You have violated the treaty by entering our space. The treaty is outdated, the devourer replied. We came because of them. One of its appendages pointed at the humans. We must know, will you use your power against us? Every eye turned to Chen. This was the test everyone had been waiting for. The devourers were the ancient enemy. If humanity wanted to prove their military might, destroying them would do it. Chen stepped forward. Are you threatening council space? We are surviving. Our feeding grounds in dark space are dying. We must expand or perish. Then we offer a third option, Chen said, surprising everyone, including the other humans. There are uninhabited systems rich in resources but useless to oxygen-breathing species. We could designate them as devourer territories in exchange for a permanent peace treaty. The chamber was silent. The humans were offering peace to the galaxy's greatest threat. The devourer's suit translated what might have been surprise. You would trust us? No, Chen said bluntly. But we'd watch you. Our antimatter fleet would patrol the borders. One violation, one attack on a council world, and we'd end you. Not your ships, your entire species. We have that capability. Everyone knew it was true. With antimatter weapons, humanity could sterilize entire systems. But if you keep the peace, Chen continued, you survive. You even prosper. That's the choice, evolution or extinction. The devourer was quiet for a long moment. The hive mind will consider this. We will send an answer. It left as suddenly as it had arrived, leaving a chamber full of stunned representatives. You'd make peace with devourers? Someone asked incredulously. We'd make peace with anyone willing to keep it, Chen replied. And we'd destroy anyone who breaks it. That's the new paradigm. Prosperity for the peaceful, annihilation for aggressors. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. Operation Safe Harbor was approved, along with the medical stations and antimatter power cells. Within a week, human ships appeared throughout council space. Not the 20 that had been patrolling, but hundreds. They didn't announce themselves or demand recognition. They simply started doing the job. The first pirate attack after the deployment was also the last for a long time. A criminal fleet of 15 ships attacked a Vegan crystal transport. The human response was instant. A single antimatter cruiser appeared from cloak, gave the pirates 10 seconds to surrender. And when they fired instead, eliminated them with surgical precision. The message spread through criminal networks at faster than light speeds. The shipping lanes were now death traps for pirates. Trade began to flow like never before. Systems that had been isolated for decades suddenly had regular shipping. Earth shimmered like a blue jewel in the viewports of the Council Station Gamma, humanity's newly constructed diplomatic center, orbiting the human homeworld. 1 year had passed since humanity joined the Council. and representatives from every member species had come to witness something unprecedented, the first galactic assembly, held on a member world rather than neutral, space. President Maria Martinez stood at the podium in the Great Hall, a magnificent structure that seamlessly blended human architecture with design elements from every council species. Behind her, a massive window showed Earth in all its glory, while antimatter defense platforms glinted like stars in precise formations. "Welcome to Earth," she began, her voice carrying to thousands of beings in the hall and billions more watching across the galaxy. "1 year ago, we revealed ourselves to you. Today, we reveal our future together." Ambassador Zixatheta sat in the Altarian section, his 3 eyes focused on the human leader. Beside him, his aide Vex whispered, "Their antimatter production has increased by 300% in the last 6 months. They're not just maintaining their advantage," Zixatheta replied quietly. "They're extending it," President Martinez continued. "When humanity first looked to the stars, we had a dream. Not of conquest, but of connection. Not of dominance, but of discovery. Today I'm proud to announce that dream is becoming reality." The lights dimmed and a holographic display filled the space above the assembly. It showed a massive ship unlike anything the galaxy had seen. It was 5 kilometers long, cylindrical, with rotating sections for gravity and vast transparent domes showing green spaces inside. "The UES Aspiration," Martinez announced. "Humanity's first antimatter-powered colony ship. She will carry 100,000 volunteers, not just humans, but members of any council species who wish to join us, to establish New Harmony, the first truly integrated colony in galactic history." The assembly erupted in discussion. Multi-species colonies had been attempted before but always failed due to different environmental needs and cultural conflicts. General Thorax stood up. "How will you manage different atmospheric requirements? Different gravities? Different radiations?" Captain Elena Volkov took the podium. "With antimatter power, we can maintain separate environmental zones while keeping them connected. The ship has 15 different habitat types, each customizable to specific species needs. The power requirements would be impossible with fusion, but with antimatter, it's just a matter of engineering." A vegan scientist chimed, her crystalline form resonating with curiosity. "The energy expenditure for such a vessel would be enormous. How much antimatter are you committing to this?" "Each colony ship will carry 50 kilograms of antimatter," Volkov replied, causing gasps throughout the assembly. "Enough to power the ship for 1,000 years and establish a fully functional colony with industrial capacity. 50 kilograms. The assembled representatives ran quick calculations. That was enough antimatter to destroy a small moon if weaponized. And the humans were putting it in a colony ship. "How many of these ships do you plan to build?" Chancellor Morvac asked, his ancient voice carrying concern. 20 in the first wave," President Martinez replied. "We want to establish a network of integrated colonies, connected by quantum communication and protected by antimatter defense stations." The display changed to show the galaxy with proposed colony locations marked. They were strategically positioned at key points, not for military advantage, but for maximum trade efficiency and resource distribution. "But that's not all," Martinez continued. "Admiral Nakamura has an announcement about our defense doctrine." Admiral Nakamura took the stage, his bearing still military precise despite a year of relative peace. "The Devourers have kept their agreement. Piracy is down 97%, but we know greater threats exist beyond our galaxy." The display shifted to show deep space sensor readings. Several unknown energy signatures had been detected in the past months, approaching from intergalactic space. "We don't know what they are, but they're coming. Arrival estimated in 18 months. Nakamura paused. "We propose the creation of the Galactic Defense Fleet. Not just human ships, but a combined force using antimatter power cells we provide. You'd arm other species with antimatter weapons?" The question came from a dozen voices simultaneously. "Defensive systems only," Nakamura clarified. "Shields powered by antimatter. Engines capable of 90% light speed and defensive weapon systems. The offensive antimatter weapons remain under human control, but you'd be able to defend yourselves far better than currently possible." Ambassador Chen stood up from her seat in the human section. "We call it the Roosevelt Doctrine, after one of our ancient leaders who said, 'Speak softly and carry a big stick.' We've updated it for the modern era. Speak softly and carry antimatter torpedoes. Some representatives laughed. Others remained concerned. What prevents you from simply conquering us all? The question came from a new species, the Relun, who had just achieved faster-than-light travel and were observing their first council assembly. President Martinez's expression grew serious. Our history prevents it. Would you like to know the truth about humanity? The full truth? The assembly fell silent. We nearly destroyed ourselves 3 times, Martinez said. First with nuclear weapons. We came within minutes of ending our civilization in atomic fire. Second with climate change. We poisoned our world and almost made it uninhabitable. Third with artificial intelligence that we created without proper safeguards. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Each time we survived by choosing cooperation over conflict, unity over division. We learned that power without wisdom is death. That's why we developed the doctrine we follow today. The display changed to show Earth's history, wars, devastation, but also rebuilding, cooperation, and growth. We spent 50 years after developing antimatter technology just watching you, Martinez continued, not to find weaknesses, but to understand you. We studied every first contact scenario, every integration success and failure. We ran thousands of simulations on how to reveal ourselves without causing panic or war. You manipulated us, someone accused. We prepared, Martinez corrected. There's a difference between deception for exploitation and caution for mutual benefit. Every action we've taken has been to build trust while maintaining security. The display now showed the last year's achievements. Trade up 60%. 0 successful pirate attacks in secured zones. 15 diseases cured. 3 wars prevented through human mediation. The results speak for themselves, Martinez said. Chancellor Morvac stood, his ancient form commanding attention. What you propose, these colony ships, this defense fleet, this integration, it would fundamentally change our civilization. Yes, Martinez agreed simply. But change was coming anyway. The unknown signatures approaching from intergalactic space prove that. The question is whether we face that change united or divided. General Thorak stood next. My people have a saying. The strongest blade is forged in the hottest fire. Humanity was forged in the fire of near extinction. You emerged with the strongest blade ever created. The question is whether you'll use it to defend or to conquer. Let me show you something, Martinez said. She nodded to someone offstage and new images appeared, not of ships or weapons, but of children. Human children playing with young Altarians, vegan younglings learning alongside human students, Craxian warriors training with human soldiers in friendly competition. This is the Mars Cultural Exchange Center, Martinez explained. For the past 6 months, we've been hosting young people from every council species. They're learning together, growing together, building friendships that will last lifetimes. The images showed more. Art galleries featuring works from every species. Restaurants serving fusion cuisines that no single species could have imagined. Scientists from different worlds working together on projects powered by antimatter energy. This is our true weapon, Martinez said softly. Not antimatter torpedoes or planet-cracking bombs. Our weapon is hope. Hope that different species can work together. Hope that power can be used for creation instead of destruction. Hope that the galaxy's best days are ahead, not behind. A young Zentari, barely old enough to be in the assembly, raised a delicate appendage. What if you're wrong? What if cooperation isn't possible? Martinez smiled sadly. Then we'll have the antimatter weapons as backup. But I'd rather bet on hope than surrender to fear. The vote on the human proposals took 3 hours of debate. In the end, every measure passed, most by wide margins. The colony ships would be built. The defense fleet would be established. Integration would continue. As the assembly concluded, President Martinez made one final announcement. We have a gift for each member species, she said. The display showed technical specifications that made the scientists in the audience gasp. Complete plans for antimatter-powered medical systems. Not weapons, not engines, just medical technology. Build them yourselves, control them yourselves. Our gift to the galaxy's health and future. Later, in a private meeting with the Council's senior members, Admiral Nakamura shared classified information about the approaching unknowns. Our deep space sensors have identified them, he said quietly. They're ships, thousands of them, and they're using antimatter drives.